Hello, everyone. I am absolutely delighted and honored to be here today. I had numerous emails and phone calls congratulating me on how lucky I am. And I am. I am here with a truly remarkable woman. Christine, it's great to have you here.
It is awesome to be here, and I want to thank you all for coordinating with my outfit. Thank you. It's worked out well.
So I think I'll just start with something that my team, who's back there, will recognize. Yes, the Parker Career Management Center.
It's awesome.
All right, rock on. These students in the audience will recognize this question as well. Why don't you start by taking us through your background?
Well, no, mine is probably the most non-traditional background you could imagine as far as how I got to where I am. My mom raised 4 girls on her own as a single mom, and didn't really know what it meant to apply to a UC or anything else for that matter. And so I knew there were 2 paths. Doctor or lawyer, right? That was it. Like I knew that there was no other jobs in the world but doctor or lawyer. And so I chose doctor, went on to UCLA, and I have a lot of my friends here today that I've seen. So many folks know that I spent a lot of time organizing and volunteering in the community, maybe a little bit of protesting as well. But probably should have been studying a little bit more because I didn't get into medical school, right? And it's hard, right? Because you put your heart and soul into everything. You're like, oh, this is my life's work, my passion. I was going to do a joint MD MBA program and open nonprofit health centers across the country and save the world, right? And that didn't work. And so I had to kind of figure out, okay, what is it? What is my default? I had a boss that I worked for once, and she asked, what is your default? And my default was always empowerment and advocacy and business. And so I found a career in supplier diversity, which was fantastic. So it was through all of these ups and downs. I was a 3-letter athlete, and then that didn't work out because I've had 3 knee surgeries, a really sad stint at modeling, which was horrible, and if I ever see those pictures, I'll burn them. So another, like, in my mind, failure. And we go through all of these aspects of things that we do that we think we might have failed at, but it doesn't make us a failure. And so I found my way, and that's how I kind of got here today.
I love it. You just mentioned your time in supplier diversity, which you said you did in your very first job at United Technologies and then later on at Disney. Then you went on to actually lead that department at NBC Universal.
Yeah.
So what exactly does that role entail?
Sure. So just as we look to diversify our workforce, right, and just as we look to diversify talent in front and behind the camera, we also want to ensure that the businesses that we are doing business with, that we're affording contracts with out of corporate America, are going to business owners that are either women-owned, minority-owned, LGBTQ-owned, veterans, and people with disabilities. And so my job was to ensure that the spend, this $1 billion of billions of dollars of spend across all of the different business units, that people had a seat at the table, and really looking at how when a contract goes to someone from a diverse population, 9 times out of 10, those same people are going to employ other people from diverse populations. And so when we talk about creating generational wealth and true economic empowerment, we call it the multiplier effect. Because yes, I could market to you, and you may feel like, oh, I'm going to go buy that product. So now you've bought that product, right? But if I market to you and you're a business owner, not only are you going to buy the product, your employees are going to buy the product, there may be a B2B relationship there, and then that's how you truly start to lift up underrepresented communities. And again, it's economic empowerment, and that was always something I'm passionate about.
Does it feel like strides have been made on that front?
I think so. I think so. You know, there's an organization called the $1 Billion Roundtable, where more and more organizations and corporations are joining that, meaning they're spending at least $1 billion of spend with diverse businesses. I think it's fantastic. I think, of course, there's always more to be done, and we want to make sure the pie is it's not a pie. There is so much opportunity for everyone, and so I think as we continue to do that, and then as we build more business owners. And we're seeing that small businesses, even large businesses, are getting bigger and bigger and able to compete in ways that they couldn't before. And I think that is absolutely phenomenal.
Good. So fast forwarding a bit to when you were appointed to your role at the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences.
It's a mouthful, isn't it? Yes.
It's a mouthful.
We can just say the Academy.
Something, I'm just going to take a quote that you said back at that time, which was, there has been and continues to be a sea change in the film community, the Academy, and the culture at large.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
You know, we're in a different time, and we need as many stories to be told. We all know that representation matters, and the Academy has been committed to this for quite some time, far longer than when I arrived. We launched our A2020 initiative, which was to double the number of women and people of color as part of our membership base, and that was the first step. And I'm so proud to say that we definitely have accomplished that goal. There's lots more to be done in the industry at large, and at the Academy itself. And so we want to make sure that we're continually looking at that, because at the end of the day, whether we're talking about supplier diversity, whether we're talking about investment firms, whether we're talking about movies, it is good business. It makes money. So if we're talking about the business of it all, it makes business sense to invest in these diverse communities and give folks a voice. And that sea of change is here. It's exciting. The new filmmakers that are doing this work are brilliant. And the artistry that they're bringing and the lens with which we're seeing the stories told in a different way is phenomenal, alongside the legends and the greats that we're seeing today as well. And so at the Academy, we're proud to celebrate and honor both.
Good. Going back to your time with the LA Sparks, so when you joined...
I'm sorry, you mean the 3-time champion LA Sparks?
That's what I mean. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
that must have
just
slipped my
checking.
notes.
It is the last team to win a professional championship here in Los Angeles. I'm just saying the ladies hold the crown, just so y'all know. Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's give her a hand for that. Well, when you went in there was actually a change of ownership. There had just been a change of ownership, and really you were embarking on a new era for the Sparks. So this was a really entrepreneurial endeavor, and I know we've already had a panel today on entrepreneurship. Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, wow, that first season was crazy. So we literally, when I tell you, we operated a professional sports franchise out of a conference room that was probably the size of this stage in Magic Johnson Enterprises headquarters, the entire first season. Like, we were literally putting Band-Aids on all sorts of stuff. So it really was this amazing entrepreneurial endeavor. And, but it was a passion. It was, and the fans of the WNBA are like no other. They just live and breathe and bleed this team. And so the challenge was, one, how do we make sure that we rebuild an organization down to having to go find a whole new office space and all of the type of infrastructure stuff. But at the same time, how do we rebuild? How do I increase market share, right? So I never wanted to spend a lot of time trying to convert your hardcore NBA basketball fan. If they, 9 times out of 10, they didn't believe that women should be playing basketball. I'm censoring myself, yes. Shouldn't be playing basketball. And so what we did instead is we said, okay, well, let's look at people who believe in women's empowerment. Let's look at moms like me who, if I see SpongeBob SquarePants one more time, I was gonna lose my mind, right? So I could take my son to the game. And then also let's look at socially conscious millennials who are looking for the right places to spend their money, but also have fun at the same time. And so we increased our market share significantly by focusing on those and looking at them and then converting them into Sparks fans and then into basketball fans. And through that, we were able to lead the league in attendance and break attendance records, which was phenomenal.
That's awesome. Did I read somewhere that you used to run through the tunnel? Like just about every game?
No.
Sounds kind of fun.
I know, that does sound kind of fun. Like, and coming. No. Hailing from Rancho Cucamonga. That doesn't roll off the tongue much. It's not so good. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the theme of this conference, which is Elevate. So if you can go back and think about the early parts of your life or your career, and were there people who helped elevate you or who helped you elevate yourself, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I have to look to my mom, right? I mean, I didn't have to look up the definition of work ethic, right? Because she was working 3 to 4 jobs to raise us girls on her own. And so that always taught me that I always had to put in that extra effort. I've been blessed to be mentored by Irvin Magic Johnson. And, Irvin is a competitor. He is a hardcore competitor on and off the court. And we won the championship, and I'm on the floor. He hadn't even got the trophy yet. And he's like, okay, you ready to do it again next year? And I'm like, I didn't even get champagne in my hair yet. Like, come on. But then I was like, yeah, let's go, right? Because that's how you are attracted to that which you are. And he recruited people who were competitive like him, and I am a bit competitive. So, he definitely provided that opportunity. My former boss at Disney, Delin Ano, is absolutely phenomenal, has been a light and guidance for me and a mentor for me for many years. So there's so many people along the way in my journey that I'm so grateful for that constantly push me out of my comfort zone and elevate me. And so then I've been able to do that as well. And then I have an amazing group of friends and colleagues that we go to, and they're like, okay, you're kind of comfortable. You told me you wanted to do X, let's go. And so we push each other and to be the best that we can. So, and I do my best to do that for others too.
Well, give us an example of a time you've done that for, let's say, a woman, since we're here in this element.
I mean, why not? So, good question. Okay, it's so funny. I have a couple of my colleagues here today. Yeah, we got some over there, we got some over there, we got some over there. And there's been a number of occasions when I've said something to them and their eyes go like, really? Like, just kind of like, I don't know about that one, right? And I smile and I'm like, you got this kind of thing. So that I know that happens with this team. And I remember at the Sparks, and actually I'm so honored and proud to be her friend, but the woman who is my successor at the Sparks is also a dear friend, Danita Johnson, also an amazing African-American woman. But when we were working together, when I was president and COO, we had to break an attendance record. Our ownership said, we just break the record. And we were like, okay. So I remember looking at her, and she was like, wait, we got to do what? Like, it's literally our first year, and we hadn't even, we'd barely been able to start running credit cards with, setting up the team. And so just continuing to push her, but knowing the potential that you can bring out of somebody, but also knowing how to provide the support, the air coverage for them, so that way they operate out of hope and not fear, right? So yes, it's scary. You're going to get pushed. You're going to have a challenge, and that's fantastic. But do it with hope. And then ideally, your leader, your boss, your supporter will help ease the fear to say, no, I got you. So, because as a leader, we need to know which of the balls that you're juggling are glass and are rubber. So that way we know which ones can bounce if they're dropped. And then it's our job to make sure that you don't drop the glass ones as you throw it as high as you possibly can. And so that's what I've tried to do throughout my career.
I love that image. Okay, so another quote I found from you is that you said, I am passionate about community service. I'm passionate about giving back. It's what I love to do.
Yeah.
And you've lived up to that, and you're involved in a number of philanthropic endeavors. We've got the Shared Harvest Fund, we've got Brown Girls Dream, and we've got Next Play Capital.
Yeah.
Just to mention 3, could you tell us about those organizations? Because I think they fit with what we're doing here today, and then the roles you've played in those.
So on each of those, I'm either on the advisory committee or a board or serve as a mentor. Brown Girls Dream is very close to my heart. So another amazing Bruin, Carrie Champion, my girl, just had her last day on ESPN, and she's about to spread her wings and do phenomenal things. But she founded Brown Girls Dream, and really it's the opportunity for just women, not necessarily, mostly women of color, but just in general. For us who have achieved some success and have gone through it, to be able to blaze the trail for the next generation. And so women like Carrie, myself, Jamel Hill, Bozoma St. John, we're all mentors to some amazing young ladies that are mostly undergraduate students, and it's mostly in sports, arts, and entertainment. And so it's a joy. We get to really tell them, like, keep it real, and what does it mean? And the thing is that as a woman, there's lots of intersections, right? And we all know this. And Jill, who's on my team, talks about intersectionality. There she is. Hey, Jill. Talks about intersectionality all of the time, and my experience versus your experience, and then how does that intersect? And there are lots of similarities, but then there's going to be some differences. And what does that mean in the workplace? What does that mean? It's different for me in sports than it was in entertainment, than it was in entertainment, Disney, NBC versus the Academy entertainment. It's different. And so how do I help them navigate those minefields in a way so that way I make it easier? That's my job. That is my responsibility. It's going to be yours next, because all of you are going to be on a stage like this at some point in time, and it's going to be up to you. And it's a responsibility that weighs heavily on me. I think about it every single day, that, you know, I might have been the first at this or the first at that, but I sure as hell better not be the last. Otherwise, I've failed at my job. So that's Brown Girl's Dream. It's all about creating space, which I love. Shared Harvest Fund. You're going to see a theme here. Another amazing Bruin. I know, go Bruins. We're about to do an 8 clap. So one of my colleagues, Nene Fua, started, she's a doctor, ER doctor, and just the weight of student debt that is burdening our students these days, and especially those that go on to graduate school and medical school, is just deafening. And so Shared Harvest Funds partners with corporations, so that way when I go as an employee of said corporation or said hospital, and I go and volunteer and do great work on behalf of that organization, that company with a nonprofit organization, the company then helps repay my debt, my student debt, which is pretty awesome, right? So we're working, we're raising money for that right now, or she is, I'm just supporting. And then Next Play Capital. What am I going to say? Another Bruin, yes. Ryan Neese is phenomenal. He's one of the most amazing humans I know. He's a Super Bowl champion. He played football at UCLA. Now he's gone on to start Next Play Capital with his dad, Ronnie Lott, who's a Trojan, whatever. But
it happens.
We'll allow it. Yeah, woo-woo, Nithya, I know, yeah. I have one employee that works for you, or who went to USC. I just don't even know what happened, but it's okay. We love you, Nithi. We love you. But him and his dad created this venture fund called Next Play Capital, and it's really focused on the intersection of sports and technology and entertainment, and then also with the eye, though, of how student athletes transition from being an athlete to being a professional or not, and then going on to create new careers for themselves as entrepreneurs, as investors in the tech space. So it's absolutely phenomenal and hugely supportive of women and underrepresented communities, again, with that eye around athlete development, and it's so important.
Terrific.
You know, all that in my spare time.
Yeah, I know, right? Seriously. So can you talk a little bit about your involvement as in the UCLA Alumni Association, and then how that evolved into your becoming the president?
Yeah, so UCLA alumni board members are in the house too. But so I started actually volunteering with the UCLA Black Alumni Association. So under the UCLA Alumni Association banner, we have, 150, 160 chapters now, I believe, across globally the world. And they're anything from affinity to diversity to professional to geographic, so on and so forth. So I started with the UCLA Black Alumni as a volunteer, then eventually went on to be a board member there, and then became a board member of the Alumni Association. And it's so funny, I always know how long I've been on this board, because my first year I was pregnant with my son, and he'll be 9 this year. So, but that being said, yeah, exactly, I'm done this year. On making a way for someone new. Not that I'm just super happy about it, but I'm making a way for someone new. But a colleague and friend nominated me to be the next president of the Alumni Association, and it is the biggest honor. I get to represent 500,000 alumni that have graduated either through a degree program or certificate program, and to be able to be that voice and that advocate for alumni across the world is fantastic. And I had a mentor who constantly was pushing me out of my comfort zone. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I just got the job at the Sparks. I can't do it. I got to focus. And he was like, no, you need to do this. And so I was elected and served 2 years in that term, and really looked at, one, we were very focused on making sure we were representing all Bruins and engaging with them where they are and how they want to be engaged, and making sure that that we felt accessible. For a long time, people didn't know who the Alumni Association Board of Directors was, and it was just kind of this ivory tower thing way over there, and that's not for me, right? I even felt that way when I was with the Black Alumni Association. And so we really wanted to make sure that we went and we brought everybody in. So we literally reorged and made a big investment to make sure that we put a lot of resources around those networks. So that way, if you relate to the Latino alumni, where's my girl? She's there. Hey, Latino alumni's here. Or if you are just Bruin professionals, or if you're South Bay Bruins, or if you're Singapore Bruins, like however it is that you connect, because my UCLA experience, as I mentioned, was a little different. I remember when I first joined the board, we were sitting around a table, and it was like, this person was like, yeah, tailgating at the Rose Bowl. And this other person was like, oh, yeah, waiting for tickets at Poly Pavilion. I was like, my first memory was a Chicano Studies hunger strike. And my memories was shutting down Wilshire and Westwood for Prop 187. And my memories were tutoring kids in Watts and doing blood pressure screenings on Crenshaw Boulevard. That was my UCLA. And so how do we make sure that all of those folks feel connected to the university? And I'm so proud of the work that the board continues to do, and that I got to be a part of. And more importantly, back to the business of it, we got the budget to balance, and we, for the first time in the organization's history, did not sell shares, and were able to budget or balance the budget for the Alumni Association. That then gives you a seat on like 18 million other boards, which I did not know, but I'm again honored. So I now serve also as a UC Regent, which oversees all 10 campuses, and sit on that board for a couple more months. So.
And what does that look like? And what are some of the issues that the UC is facing right now? What are the things they're thinking about?
Yeah, so first and foremost, affordability. Really important to us is making sure that it is a predictable and affordable education, and accessibility as well. I couldn't get into UCLA today. Hands down. I got in pre-209. There is no way I probably could got into UCLA today. So the average GPA is what, 4.4 now, 4.5? So how do we ensure that we are being very intentional about accessibility and outreach so that we have a campus that best represents who we are as Angelenos and the world? Because what happens at UCLA tends to make trends across the country. So that's something that's super important. I am honored to serve on a committee that is looking at basic needs. So many of our students don't have the basic needs that they need. There's housing insecurity, there's food insecurity, and if we're expecting them to succeed and then be able to be contributors to our workforce, and they can't even find ways to feed themselves, then that's something that we need to fix. And so I'm on that committee. I'm chairing a committee for formerly incarcerated youth and those that have been affected by the system, as well as former foster youth as well that are students. They've overcome so much, and so we need to make sure that they have enough services while they're here at UC, and a number of other things. So these are all issues that are facing us because our budget, and my good friend Jennifer is here, we need advocacy. That we get so little state funding for this public university, and the regents want nothing more than to make sure that all students can afford to go to UCs, and we're just got to figure out where the money comes from. And people think that it's a public school, so it's state funded, and it's less than 10% of our budget is funded by the state. So those are all things that are top of mind that we're really trying to figure out, and really stand as we should and make sure that our UC system represents everyone, because it truly is it's a catalyst, right? When we talk about elevating, it serves as this catalyst to change trajectories. And how do we make sure that we do that and are really making a true impact? And that's why it's funny, because I used to write my checks like to UC Regents. I didn't know who they were. I was like, I don't know who these people are, but they're taking my money. And then I used to protest against them, and now I'm one. So
it's funny how that happens.
It's funny how that happens, but that's just it though, right? We have to have a seat at the table. And if like-minded people who believe in equity and who believe in what we're all here for today get a seat at the table, that is the only way change comes. And that's why it's so important that we take advantage of these. And so many times, especially as women, we're intimidated. And we're like, no, that's not for me. Or and it's I'm young for the board. There's some powerhouse people on this board. But if I don't step up, then I am not living up again to that responsibility that I hold so dear.
Well, and the other thing is, from early on, you have been a voice for the disempowered and the disenfranchised, right? So how did that become your calling? And then how does that affect your goals and ideals right now?
I mean, I guess, when you're raised by a single mom, and it starts there. But more importantly, it's just, I think as we look out as this big global human family, if someone is affected, if someone else is oppressed, if someone else doesn't have the opportunity, then that should affect you as if it is happening to you as well. And so for me, even though I have been blessed with opportunity and this platform, I still identify as that, little girl from Rancho Cucamonga, not knowing for sure what we were going to have for dinner, right? And it wasn't always, my mom was phenomenal and provided for us, but it wasn't easy. And so I will never forget that. But whether I came from that or I didn't, it doesn't matter. Just because you don't come from that environment, it should pain you just as much to see any other person oppressed or their opportunity taken away, because you don't know what that person may or may not contribute to your life. That may be the next person that cures cancer that you may need in the future. So we have to stop looking at it because I have a daughter, or because I have a friend, or because it's our problem. And when you embrace it, and when you internalize every one of society's issues as your own, regardless of if it is or isn't, that's the only time when we'll progress as a society.
So what are the things that you've got on your mind for this next decade? So as we hit 2020 here, it seemed like a lot of people cleared the slates and they said, all right, new decade, new me.
Right.
What's on your mind for this next decade?
Joy, gratitude, just happiness. And I think that we all have to find that. And when you find that, the challenges that come up, you look at them differently, right? I got in a really, really bad car accident January 4th with my son, and we walked away without a scratch. So to be able to have, look at that, not as, oh, now I have to get a rental car, now I got to and the insurance, joy, and just gratitude for every moment. And when you look at it that way, the stress, and don't get me wrong, I have bad days, let's be clear. It's not all Skittles and rainbows every single day, right? But that being said, like you find ways to come out of that, because we are still here. And especially this week has been hard for our city and for a lot of us. And to come out of that and find our joy again, especially with all that's going on in the world, that is key. You keep that, you know yourself, you learn yourself, you know your purpose, you stay true to that. And then all the other stuff you can deal with. One of the things I'd love to share with, especially the up and coming leaders in this room, is that you have to bring the calm. As a leader, that's part of our job, is to bring the calm. And if you're centered with who you are and you have that calm and peace, it doesn't mean you're not freaking out inside, Like, I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna solve this. This is like, you're doing it. But when you come to your team and your team looks to you, we got this. We'll figure it out, right? And so making sure I maintain that calm and being centered and being focused, but like, let's go. Like, I'm so excited about like what is to come for all things, for myself, for the academy, for all the rooms that we're all in. Like, this is a time when I want everybody to just stop asking for permission so much, because we often do that so many times and we hold back and we don't go after that thing, right? As women, we don't like push hard. We don't make that pitch or take that jump. We don't do it. And so go for it. Like, that's what you have to do. You're your best advocate, and go for it. What's the worst that could happen, right? But do it with joy, do it with intention, do it with purpose, but also with who else is watching. There's always gonna be somebody watching. You don't have to be on a stage like this. You don't have to have a C in your title. Someone is always watching you, and it's your responsibility, just like it's my responsibility, to make sure that their path is easier. So that's what I'm looking forward to in this decade.
Is that your recommendation for all of them? Get after it, find the joy, be grateful, find your mentors. Yes. Anything else on that front?
Just let's go. That's it.
Let's go.
We got too much work to do, and let's do it together. You know, it's hard. Sometimes it's going to be hard. You don't get along with everybody, and that's okay. But we can still lift each other up, even if we don't necessarily aren't besties. There's too much great work to be done, and we're all here for it. There's room for all of us. Absolutely.
Terrific. So now that we are a week away from the 92nd Academy Awards.
Oh, that little thing, little thing going on.
What are some of your faves? Like, what are you excited about? Like, what's coming down the pike? You don't have to give us any sort of surprises away or anything, but.
I am excited that we had a record number of women nominated across all categories this year, and that doesn't get enough publicity, so that's something I'm very excited about. Yeah. Again, lots of work to be done, but a record number of women nominated across the other categories. Films like Parasite are breaking barriers in ways that we haven't seen before, and having a Korean film nominated for Best Picture is breaking barriers. So these are the things that I'm excited about.
Awesome.
I'm excited about the show. It's gonna be awesome. Tune in. And just kind of the year to come. We have a lot of really exciting plans. And the team that is actually here, which I gotta give a shout out to, so we have an amazing gold internship program which pairs up and coming filmmakers and college students with academy mentors for membership. And they've done such amazing work, and I'm so proud to work with all of them. And we continue to just really change lives. And so the work that me and the gold team and our alumni programming team are going to do this year is going to be awesome to continue to build that pipeline of amazing talent of the next filmmakers. So those are the things I'm looking forward to.
Terrific. Well,
and hopefully some Bruin wins too. Like, we need to win something.
That'd be nice, huh?
No, we actually did. Softball won this year, another championship.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. A women's team, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Terrific. Well, that's what we have today. I want to give a big thank you to Christine. This has been a delight. Thank you.